Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with feta roast chicken. That's right, we're doing a roast chicken with feta stuffed under the skin, and I'm not exactly sure whether this was a triumph or just merely a success. I haven't made up my mind yet, and we'll talk about why later. So the bad news is I'm still thinking about that. The good news is, though, this was either a triumph or a success. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And to begin, we're going to need one hunk of feta, also known as one of my favorite all-time cheeses. And I'm assuming you've all enjoyed feta by now. But if you haven't, do yourself a favor and pick some up, even if you're not going to make this, since feta scrambled eggs are one of the most delicious things you can eat. And what I'm going to do is crumble about a quarter pound into this bowl. And as you may notice, this is kind of a dry variety. Okay, there are versions that are much creamier and stickier than this, which in hindsight may have worked better. But anyway, to that we will add some crushed garlic, as well as some chili flakes. And I'm using Aleppo pepper, since it's awesome. We'll also go ahead and toss in some freshly ground black pepper, plus the zest of one lemon. And by the way, keep that zested lemon nearby, since you'll probably want to whisk that into your pan drippings. And then I'm also going to toss in a couple teaspoons of dry oregano, which as you can see I've measured in my hand, because supposedly it makes you look like you know what you're doing. And then we will finish this mixture up with a couple glugs of olive oil. And that is it. We'll simply take the back of a spoon or spatula and smear this all together until we have a relatively smooth paste. Okay, when I tested this recipe the first time, I actually left some larger chunks of feta, and they ended up kind of poking through the skin as it baked, which were not attractive and borderline disturbing. So we really do want to smush and smear and smash this until it's pretty smooth. And then what we'll do once that's been accomplished is set it aside and move on to prep our chicken, which in my case was a ridiculously large 5-pounder. Okay, for roasting I generally like to use a 3 to 3.5 pound chicken, but having said that, this will and did work. And I'm going to go ahead and generously salt the cavity, as well as insert a handful of herbs, in particular some fresh oregano and rosemary, which is like reason 500 to have some herbs growing in your backyard or your windowsill, since I probably would not pay $5 for a couple cartons of herbs in the store just to do this. But if you have them grown for free, you snip off a few and you stick them in. And then what we'll do before we get to the good part is go ahead and tie the legs together, which my culinary instructors used to tell me makes the chicken cook a little more evenly. Although you know what, I've never been exactly sure of that. But it probably does make it look a little better. And once that's set, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle the rest of the surface with kosher salt. And please, if you only remember one thing from this video, it's always make sure your wingtips are tucked under. Because nobody wants to see a roasted chicken with untucked wings. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. And then once that's set, we'll go ahead and transfer our chicken into whatever we're going to roast it in. At which point we can move on to everybody's favorite step, the loosening and stuffing of the skin. And I'm going to be using my fingers and this rubber spatula. So we'll go ahead and loosen up a little bit of that skin right where the breast starts. And once we have that separated for an inch or two, we can switch to a rubber spatula or something similar. And use that to carefully but confidently loosen that skin all the way down, not only in the front, but also down along the side towards the wing. And while there are a lot of techniques we kind of like to do in front of people to show off, I'm not sure this is one of them. But anyway, we'll go ahead and loosen that skin on both sides. Oh, and if you ever needed an example of the universe's unique sense of humor, the last 50 chickens I've bought, including the one for the test, did not have any holes in the skin. But of course, since I was going to film this one had several. Well played, universe. But as you'll see, that really didn't cause any major problems. And then what we'll do once our skin's been separated is push under our feta mixture, half on each side. And the best method I found is do a couple tablespoons at a time, sort of pushing it under and then using the side of your finger to spread it down. And no, there is no graceful or elegant way to do this. So don't even try. Like I said, just spoon a couple tablespoons under. And as you press that down with your finger, it should spread out pretty evenly. And I didn't show it, but one tip here would be to divide your filling in the bowl in half so that you're increasing your chances this is going to be evenly distributed. And as with almost all our videos, this really is just a technique here. And as long as those ingredients aren't too chunky, you could add anything you want to this cheese mixture. Okay, I heard from a friend on Twitter who actually puts ground up bacon in this, which I'm not sure how that would work with feta, but I definitely like how he's thinking. So as usual, those kind of adaptations will be up to you. I mean, you are after all the MC Ren of your feta stuffed hen. But the mixture you see me using here really did work quite well. But regardless, once that is spread under the skin, we'll go ahead and use our hands to make sure everything's nicely shaped. which I will admit I enjoyed doing more than I should have. And then once those breasts have been fully augmented, I'm going to go ahead and rub on a little bit of olive oil. And that was mostly because I had a little bit of feta mixture smeared here and there, and I was afraid it was going to brown unevenly. So by rubbing on a little bit of oil here, I think we take care of that problem. And then to finish this up, we'll go ahead and dust the top with some cayenne, which of course makes things taste great, but it's also going to make the post-roast color of the skin even better. And then last but not least, a final sprinkling of kosher salt. And that's it. We'll go ahead and pop that chicken into the center of a 400-degree oven for, in my case, about an hour and 10 minutes, since my chicken was gigantic. And of course, your time's going to depend on the size. But hopefully when it's done, it looks a little something like this, which I thought was absolutely gorgeous. Except it was sort of weird. The feta that we implanted on that right side sort of collapsed as it's cooled, and I was not exactly sure why. So I just stopped thinking about it, and I went ahead and let that rest about 15 minutes before popping it on a platter and garnishing with some fresh herb. I also brushed over a little bit of that chicken fat from the pan to sort of shine it up for the pictures. And obviously, while it's resting, you can go ahead and squeeze that lemon into your pan drippings to make a very simple sauce, which I will review in the blog post. And that's it. Once mine rested about 15 minutes, I went ahead and sliced in to see what happened. And what happened was this. Some beautifully juicy, very fragrant chicken. Although I couldn't finish the cut because I was on the wrong side. So I moved around and finished the slice. And it really did look and feel and smell amazing. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I did not like the look of the feta, which as you can see had a very grainy appearance, and maybe not the most appetizing color ever. But as I snuck a little taste here, I became far less concerned with that, because it really did taste amazing. Okay, that tangy saltiness that feta features really was fantastic here. So I transferred some slices on a plate, next to our famous lemon pepper potatoes. I was actually going to go with lemon potato peppers, but that's not a thing. But anyway, I went ahead and plated some up, and spooned over some of those pan drippings that, like I said, I whisked the juice of one lemon into. And appearances aside, it really didn't feel or taste grainy. But like I said, I just was not crazy about how it looked. So yes, maybe a softer, creamier cheese would have worked better here. But on the other hand, the flavor of the feta worked perfectly. So I think the solution might be just to find a creamier, softer feta. But anyway, that's it. What I'm calling feta roast chicken. Like I said in the intro, this came out somewhere between a success and a triumph, which I guess in the grand scheme of things is just fine. So with a few possible tweaks, I really do hope you give this a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.